It is 12:59. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. For the first time in franchise history, the Nashville Predators have been swept in a playoff series. The Preds led early in the third period over the Avalanche thanks to 2 goals by Yakov Trenin, but the Avs ultimately came back to win 5-3 in Game 4 at Bridgestone Arena, and the Preds are the first team to be eliminated from the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs. Vezina Trophy finalists were officially announced today. Preds goalie Juuse Saros is one of the 3. Saros did not play in the playoff series with a lower body injury. Preds defenseman Roman Josi also a finalist for the Norris Trophy. Coming up, NHL playoff action tonight. 4 games with series tied up at 2-2 in the West. It's Blues and Wild playing at 8:30 in Minnesota. Kings and Oilers face off at 9 p.m. And in the East, Bruins and Hurricanes at 6. Lightning and Maple Leafs drop the puck at 6:30. Tom Brady will move to the booth when his playing days are over with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was reported this morning, joining Fox Sports alongside play-by-play broadcaster Kevin Burkhardt. The number, 10 years, $375 million, as reported today, is what Tom Brady will earn in his media career, the most in sports broadcasting history. In the NBA tonight, 2 Game 5s taking place with the pair of series even at 2 games apiece. It's Sixers and Heat tipping off at 6:30 from Miami in the East, and Mavericks and Suns in the West at 9 p.m. from Phoenix. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday to you. Preds fans, how you feeling?
Oh, my.
Blaine was at the game last night. How are you feeling?
Not so good.
That's that.
I'm not, I tried to still be in the spirit and wear their colors in blue and yellow, but you really got to see live that, when when Colorado, when they said, we got to turn it up a notch, it was like,
immediate.
I was like, oh, my God, we have no shot of winning this. And I thought the Predators played probably their best game thus far, but, man, they were just much more talented, and you can't hit what, you can't catch. And, so, yeah, it was just that kind of, man, you thought they had them, and then, nope, they don't. So, yeah, it was just kind of that way, but the atmosphere and the fans and everybody it was crunk, man. It was awesome. Yeah, it was, man, I get caught up in the stuff. I'm really be cheering and waving my towel and all that. I kind of forget, what I'm there for. But I was really just there just to entertain and have a good time. So, yeah, I still even have on I put it back on.
Oh, the flashy bracelet?
Yeah, the flashy bracelet. I put it back on, man, because I didn't want to trash it or anything. I just wanted to use it as like a wristband or something, man. So, yeah, man. Were you there, Lucas? No?
I was not. I was taking it in from home.
Oh, I forgot something. I forgot to get my headphones.
Well, that's okay. So you have no idea what Lucas just said?
No, I do not.
He said he was taking it in from home. I want to ask you guys this because there was video of it. Was it Sean Smith, I think, who put out the video of Philip Forsberg? Everybody kind of lingering on the ice, and he went and made one more slow lap around and looked around.
Yeah, I saw that video.
Which,
where did you take it?
I don't know. It was the end of the season. There's some uncertainty. He might have thought, I'm going to take one last look around at this place for no matter what. Others are saying that was the last look around of somebody who was like, I'm taking one last look around because the only way I'm coming back here is a visitor. So I'm just going to drink this in, 10 years of worth of my life, and I'm going to keep it moving. I don't know. I mean, I remember when Eric Weddle played what we thought was his last game for the Chargers in San Diego, and they were like, taking off their clothes and giving it to fans and, walking around from – it's like, okay, this guy's retiring. This is it. The Forsberg thing, he's still got so much longer to play. Was it like, boy, this is another season that's over. I'm going to look around. For me, it's hard to tell. But if he leaves and goes somewhere else, everybody's going to say, see, I knew it because he was skating around to say goodbye.
Well, here's how I look at it, being a former athlete and you really don't know where you may end up since they haven't negotiated the contract.
Yep.
It's probably 50-50 that he comes back or returns. So he's saying, hey, if it's my last time, let me make a courtesy call to the fan base and the memories, and just so I can have that in the bank just in case. So that's kind of how it looked, because he kind of separated himself a little bit and then went around. So I don't want to say that he knows that he's leaving. I think he's saying, well, we haven't got anything done yet, so I'm assuming that I probably will be leaving. So that's really, unfortunate. But I think he had to do that just in case. That doesn't mean he won't come back. And I kind of mentioned this a couple days ago that I thought ownership was tying this up. Yeah, and I thought that they were hurting Pollo behind, because why aren't you signing this offensive player? Mm-hmm. And so you say, well, maybe there's a hang up on who's going to be the GM, maybe who's going to be the head coach, and maybe let the person who may come take Pollo's spot, if it happens. Maybe Pollo goes to the president. I don't know. And then they hire a GM. And so I think with so many people involved in ownership, I think this is part of the issue. And then the haggling over, 8 or is it 10 million per year. So I probably would expect that he won't be back, but I'll be elated if he is back, though. Yeah, so he has to do that. It's just always interesting because hockey's a little bit different. They get to shake hands and everybody's still standing there watching them, and then you get, a lap around. So that's really cool. Yeah, but they were just overmatched, man. They had nothing for those guys.
When we did the show on Friday, we call our shot courtesy of our friends at Chattanooga
that's
Whiskey.
Right. Yeah.
And I said,
you said they were going to get swept.
They're going to get swept. And what I was basing that on was, and there's always going to be somebody out there who says, well, if they'd had UC Soros, they probably wouldn't have given up 7 goals in some of those games.
They might have won one game. They still weren't the better
They
team.
still weren't a better team. Colorado at times looked like they had extra people on the ice. The way they closed the gap.
No.
I mean, the Predators still had trouble getting the puck out of their own zone.
Couldn't shoot, get shots.
Couldn't even get shots off.
Yeah.
And it's funny that I always say we store memories with Lucas. The one series that I ever remember where the Preds just did that, where they choked the life out of somebody, was in 2017 when they went all the way to the finals, when they played Chicago first.
In the first, yeah.
Chicago couldn't get the puck across center ice.
Chicago won one game, didn't they?
Did they we might have to go to
they swept the Blackhawks on the way, yeah.
Okay,
and that was the one seed. It was the same scenario, right?
It's the same scenario.
Yeah,
one seed.
Only it was reversed. The Preds just choked the life out of them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't
It was shocking, too.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, none of that was in danger of happening this year. I mean, even on the power play, I know they got for most of the series, even on the power play, they still couldn't even generate a shot. The Avs would outshoot them on their own power play.
That was the turning point last night. Was a power play where they had 0 shots, gave up a shorthanded opportunity, just like that.
That was, yeah. We got 2 polls on Blaine and Mickey, and they've gotten some strong reactions to people.
Oh, yeah.
So one I did last night as soon as the game ended. Where should the Preds start making changes to fix things this offseason? Front office, head coach, players, all of the above. Which somebody yelled at us and said, you can't do all of the above, then you're stupid. Yeah, you can. Just change some players.
Well, I may resemble that at times, though. So
well, I'm the one who put it up, so I'm stupid. Then our director of content, Blaine Bishop, hatched this one this morning, and there were some people I think missed the essence of this tweet. Which postseason loss hurts the most? Preds swept by Avs, Titans lost to Bengals. Well, it's 94.5% Titans lost to Bengals. We're in football country. Right. I get that. Bigger fan base, bigger interest and everything. But we had more than one person say, you can't even compare these losses. It's not about comparing the losses, ding dong. It's an opinion poll. Yeah. It's which one hurts you the most.
Right.
Here's the other thing that I don't think I want to yell at you guys for saying something so stupid, guys, thinking about. Right. The Predators could change, like fundamentally could change this year. David Poile could be gone. They could have another head coach. Philip Forsberg may not come back. So whatever skated off the ice last night at the end of the game, and if you looked up and saw Poile in his spot and you looked at John, this team could finally say, okay, we're going to take the barrel and pour it over, just turn it over and flip it over, and we're going to start again. We're going to make David Poile the emeritus, director of hockey. I don't know, because this team's not what it is without David Poile. I mean, he is the Predators. But there could be time, though, that you get a new GM and he moves into a different role.
And by the way, if you want to keep him, how did it go? Did Poyle, did he fire Trotzy or was he come after him?
Oh, no. It's all him.
He is available. Oh. He is available.
Lucas,
that could save him.
Are you ready for the return of – because people are like kind of jokingly like, I'm just going to joke about this on Twitter, but I really hope it happens.
About Trotz?
Yes.
I couldn't believe they fired him.
I couldn't either.
Yeah.
One losing season, right?
First time they missed the playoffs in 4 years.
Bye. Got zero patience for you.
Yeah. Well, that meant somebody wanted power or control, as they were about to show you, because you're supposed to get a pass when you had the success Barry Trotz did. No doubt about it.
Here's Lonzo, head coach, #bring Barry Trotz back. He said, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Got to move backwards to move forwards.
Guys have gone back to teams. That's not unprecedented.
I think a lot of people want to give Poyle a pass here. I think that they should move forward and blow up everything, because I'm glad they actually lost in this first round in the way that they lost in getting swept, because it's going to make ownership groups sit here and say, we need to do some changing. If not, if they would have won 2 games or went to 7 or whatever, then everybody would, oh, no, we barely lost. No, you need to make some wholesale changes here. And it may take someone from outside the organization coming in and redoing everything.
Yeah, fresh eyes.
Yeah, fresh eyes. I think that's what needs to be done, because what are you going to do? Patchwork continue, and then you maybe squeak into the playoffs again and get beat in the first round? That's the only way you get, unless you tank and get, hopefully, at the right time and get a couple good players.
Yeah.
That's it.
Doherty said yesterday getting swept changes things. It's different from losing in 5 or in 6. And you look at the
it?
I think it is. Getting swept
so.
off the ice in the way that they did.
It looked like they probably shouldn't be in the playoff. I mean, yeah.
But if they'd won 1 game, though, I wouldn't feel any different.
Oh, I wouldn't either.
Sure.
I'd be like, okay,
fair.
It's another deck chair on the Titanic at this point. This one has a beach umbrella.
Were well overmatched.
Yeah, but I think the fear is, look what happened to the Chicago Blackhawks when they got swept by the Preds. They were the number 1 seed in the West at that time.
Yeah.
They haven't been relevant in the playoff discussion since that series.
Well, and Adam Vingan and Alex Doherty
Can't play scared.
Depending on what you have access to or not to read A to Z or to read The Athletic. I guess everybody has access to A to Z, but not necessarily The Athletic. Both of those guys have written about it, and Adam Vingan wrote this. There's 16 or 17 owners of the Preds to some extent, and that one of them had told him, oh, no, David Poyle's contract just renews itself every year. It's self-renewing.
Oh, it's just like your contract here.
He said it just renews, right? I mean,
what?
His contract renews itself.
See, and that's where I think, because he was here and built the Predators, really, he's getting a pass way too long. And I never call for anybody's head, but you got to assess every year and say, hey, we got to move forward. It's not it just renews just because who you are. No. We have to look at this team and how it's put together, and this is not sustainable here. This won't work. They probably, if they kept this team together, they wouldn't make the playoffs with Forsberg off, and they had a number of guys had records season.
Oh gosh, yes.
And we still can't have success. Well, what's the issue then?
Well,
Saros is, for the best finalist.
Yeah, that's official.
Some guys had career number of goals.
You had the highest scoring rookie. You had 2 guys who scored 40-plus. You'd never had anybody score over 34. And Roman Josi, best defensive scoring season in 30 years?
Yeah.
And a Vezina finalist at goalie. Now, I get it. He didn't play in the series. It didn't matter. Like you said, Blaine, maybe he steals them a game. Maybe he steals them a game.
Maybe he steals a game.
Maybe he steals them a game. Yeah.
Ingram had a game-stealing performance in Game 2.
Almost.
Sure did.
Come up and go short, yeah.
But a lot of the guys they've gotten rid of, Fiala and others, have gone on to other places and played really well. The guys that you've decided to keep.
And some not so well.
Some not so well. I don't know. Sometimes it just takes somebody to walk in who's like, I know this is the way you always done it, guys. Let me open my world, a whole new world to you of how to do this. Yeah.
But you can't be scared just to do it. And even if it doesn't work, you got to say that you tried it.
Yeah.
You have to.
Well, and for everybody who says you can't do that, well, they tried to keep the band together after they played for the Cup.
Too
They
long.
tried. And then they
1 year
tried
too
again.
long. Mhm.
And then they sort of tried again. And then this year they had the competitive rebuild. They tried. So if everybody down there who's in ownership and makes decisions like, I'm fine, just treading water, putting a good product on the ice and making the playoffs, that's where you are right now. That's where you are.
Well, a lot of people say they want to hear from ownership, and I don't even know if that's the recipe. Most ownership, especially when you have a group of that big, who is the spokesman for them? Is it still, the president? Henry? So I don't know if that would change my thought process. Really, because Poyle usually does, it maybe a week or so after the season's over, some form of a press conference. You kind of can ask him questions then. But, I think it's time to make some shuffling, some serious moves here now.
Well, at some point, he always speaks. David Poyle will speak. I think you're right. It would be Sean Henry who came out and spoke on behalf of ownership. Mm-hmm. So, you know what? Do we hear from him? John Hines obviously spoke after the game last night. But, Preds swept first time in their history in the postseason. What happens next? A lot of questions. John Glennon joins us next. He covers the Preds for SI.com. We got a lot of questions we will get into. All that next with John Glennon from Sports Illustrated. Blaine and Mickey, 1045 The Zone. John Glennon set to join us here in just a minute. He's with SI.com, covers really all things Nashville sports, emphasis on the Preds, Titans, even Nashville SC, I would say. So he should be on with us here in just a second.
Yeah, he does Preds stuff on the NHL.com.
Oh, that's right. He's a multifaceted journalist. He does a little bit of this.
When you go to Virginia, man, there's nothing that you can't do.
You're really smart enough to work for more than one entity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I went to Arkansas State. I'm really hardly smart enough to work for one.
Yeah. Well, Ball State's just like a tick right under that.
Dude, y'all got David Letterman. You got all kinds of stuff. Don't start that with Ball State, man.
We got a few people.
That's big time.
Yeah. Whether you like him or not, Jason Woodlock.
That was your teammate briefly, right? Football?
Yeah, the year that I transferred there, the year I had to sit out. He was practicing. He's exactly how he is now. I mean, like he was writing for the school newspaper, and he was always very vocal and opinionated. So he's right up his alley. I was interested to see if he ever really was going to get his shot, and he, I guess, doing the Kansas City market, his initial years really put him on the map. It really got him to ESPN. Then he's had a couple stops there since then and bounced around with Fox and everything else. But, yeah, he's really, really good. Always makes you think. Whether you agree or disagree with him, it definitely makes you think, that's for sure. We used to do the same thing, too. Yeah. It was like, we can't make this guy captain. No. You have youngsters thinking too much.
John Glennon joins us now. We've got him. John, we were discussing your Virginia education, giving you the ability to cover two different teams for two different publications. We're just impressed. Titans for SI.com and Preds for NHL.com. That's big-time stuff.
Well, he's got two brains up there.
It's amazing. A lot of people, are now speaking of me in the same breath. But, generally speaking, with Ralph Sampson as two of the most prominent, UVA graduates over the last several decades. You might not have heard it a lot, but really that's what the buzz is these days. So keep your ear out for that.
Do you remember? Was it 1980? The Ralph Sampson Sports Illustrated cover. Hello, my name is Ralph Sampson. Do you remember that?
Was that 80?
I do remember that. Yeah, I remember a few Ralph Sampson covers. I remember the historic game where we went up against Patrick Ewing.
Yes, that's the one I remember. Yes.
And then another one I can remember, and it's mind blowing now, is a cover where he and I think like Mark Aguirre and then maybe Albert King, all those guys came back for their senior year in college. And how mind blowing is that now to think of a guy like Ralph Sampson playing 4 years in college? It's crazy.
I'm sad that injuries robbed people who, if he hadn't had the injuries that he'd had, I wish just that deal could have gone differently because he was such a special and unique basketball talent.
Really was, and ahead of his time in a lot of ways because he was a 7'4" guy that could, dribble, bring the ball up court, move around, very mobile, did all kinds of good things. And boy, what a, especially on that college level, as you say, before those injuries kicked in, what an incredible player to watch for 4 years.
He was. Well, he stuck around Syracuse or stuck around, Virginia. I don't know. I was thinking
Watch it, pal.
I was thinking of orange colors. Right? Stuck around Virginia for 4 years. Philip Forsberg has stuck around Nashville for 10 years. Does his tenure, do you feel like that little loop he took around the ice last night was a goodbye?
So hard to say. So hard to say at this point, I know certainly, David Poyle told us he was very confident that he was going to be able to get Philip Forsberg re-signed, but there's always that question mark now because if you're Philip Forsberg, you've reached that point in your career where you have the opportunity to look around for maybe bigger money than the Predators are willing to pony up, and B, if you feel like there's another team that gives you a better chance to compete right away for a Stanley Cup, maybe your eyes look in that direction as well. So it's going to be a very difficult call. As I say, David Poyle felt very confident about it at the trade deadline that eventually this was going to get done. So, it's kind of riding on his shoulders right now.
Sure is. John Glennon, our guest here on Blaine and Mickey Talking Preds at Glennon Sports on Twitter.
Yeah, John, JG, man, I'm just trying to figure out what's the next steps here. Now that the season's over, they got swept. I mean, let's say you are the president of the Predators. and knowing the history and where you go from here, what would be probably your thought process and things you would be thinking about to help this team be better? Because that didn't look very good, and I was there against Colorado. They just looked overmatched, faster, everything. They didn't, looked like they shouldn't have been in the playoffs. Really, they gave a good effort this last game, but yeah, they were overmatched.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that they're overmatched, and maybe the biggest X factor that might have worked for them, was UC Saros, and of course he missed that playoff series as well. But if I'm sitting in the president's shoes, I think it's fair to make a critical evaluation of everybody in the organization, and I think David Poile certainly is a person that falls under that critical evaluation as well. Obviously has the great track record over the years, and Predators have been in the playoffs 8 straight years. I think that's tied for the second longest in the NHL. So do you look at David Poile's body of work overall and say, we think he's the guy who's going to move us back, closer to the Stanley Cup than a first-round exit, which has been the case for the last 4 years? Or is it time, or do the last 4 years say it's time to make a switch at that, position as well? I think, as I say, David Poile has always been a guy who's done critical, logical evaluations of personnel for the Predators, and I think he has to, be put in that same light by those above him as well. So that's decision number one. I think if the decision is that David Poile stays, then I think John Hynes will stay as well. I think David Poile likes what John Hynes has done, feels like this team is moving in the right direction, and so I think your coaching situation remains the same. If David Poile is not here, then, presumably you're bringing in a different general manager from outside the organization, and then, it's all up in the air. Maybe he wants his own coach right away. So maybe at that point, Hynes' job becomes a little less secure there. But certainly some huge decisions if you're the national president, and everything trickles down as well. If you do have a general manager, what's his policy on Philip Forsberg? Does he want to put out the big bucks for a long-term contract, which is what Philip Forsberg will certainly want? Or do you move on and try to get what you can from Philip Forsberg? So going to be an eventful several weeks here coming up for the Predators.
Going with John Glennon with the Preds writer for NHL.com. I guess, sitting here thinking about all the things going on, does Poile hiring Hynes, and then let's say he tries to use him. I thought he'd done a decent job considering Hynes, what he was dealing with all season. And he goes in different direction. Does he get a pass on the hiring of the coach?
If
Poile.
Straighten that out for me one more time.
Well, if let's say he goes in a different direction and Poile's here, and then he wants to let go of the coach, and it seems like to me Hynes did a halfway decent job. I don't know, you know it better than me. So does he get a pass here, Poile, if he tries to go in that direction? Because it's still his call.
I don't think you ever get a pass. If you're the general manager on a coach that you hire, certainly that's one of, if not the biggest decision a general manager can make. But I agree with you. I think Hynes did a good job this year for the most part. We can all quibble with various parts of his system and so forth. But with the talent that he had. To have a team that got 97 points when most, of the NHL analysts and media and so forth did not expect this team to be a playoff team. I think you can give a thumbs up to John Hynes for the most part. And that's why I believe if David Poile is still here, I think he will keep John Hynes. David Poile does not have a track record of firing coaches very quickly. We know that. I think he sees progress here with John Hynes, and another thing a couple of things we have to give John Hynes credit for. Some of these veterans, obviously the Matt Duchene's and Philip Forsberg, career seasons, and I think a lot of people have thought maybe these guys had sort of topped out, and I think you have to give credit to John Hynes for kind of upping their intensity, their competitive play. So I think that's a real plus for John Hynes. So I'm okay with if I'm the GM or if I'm the president, I'm okay with John Hines sticking around. I think generally speaking, he's moved upward over the years.
Well, you hear the fan base crying out for, Barry Trotz is available. Kind of take us through the timeline and history there with Poyle and him.
Yeah, with Barry Trotz, certainly, Barry Trotz was the ideal expansion coach for the Predators. And you hear the words today, establishing identity. John Hines uses those words often. Well, certainly Barry Trotz did those, over his lengthy tenure here. You always knew what you were going to get playing against the Predators. A smart, disciplined, generally defensive-minded team, because they didn't always have the talent and the offensive firepower that other teams did. Since Barry Trotz has moved on, and I think, when David Poyle made that decision to move on from Barry Trotz, I thought that was the right call at the time. It had been 2 straight non-playoff years. Things did not look good with the team on the roster. And, it was just time for a change. Things had grown stale at that point. And I think Barry Trotz understood that as well. But there's always been a very good relationship between the two, even after the firing. So, is it conceivable that Barry Trotz would come back here? Honestly, I don't see that happening. As I said, if David Poyle stays, I think John Hines remains the coach, because I think he likes where Hines is going. And I think there's something to be said about the been there, done that factor as well. They had Barry Trotz, they had his system in place, and they got the results they had there. So my guess is that both David Poyle and Barry Trotz would say, no, that the time has passed for Barry Trotz in Nashville.
There you have it. John Glennon, Predators writer for NHL.com.
JG, there are people who are, writing about wanting people fired or complete rebuild and accountability from ownership and things like that. Just based on your tone, it doesn't seem like you are maybe one of those guys who said blow the whole thing up, or it's time for David Poyle to go on and do his next role with the Predators, or just next role as retirement or whatever. Am I reading that wrong, or are you not one of these guys?
I am not necessarily banging on the desk and saying absolute, blow it up, rebuild. As I said, I think in years past, I think it was a given, for David Poyle to come back, given all that he had done, building this franchise. I think now it's fair that he is getting a more critical evaluation right now. I mean, there's 4 straight playoffs. That they've been one and done. You look at the roster now, and you can't point at it and say, well, they're going to be great. They're going to be back among the best teams in the league next year. That's for sure. And you look also, probably the last half decade or so of trades for David Poyle, and there haven't been necessarily the ones that really, shot this team into contention for the most part, and there have been some that have certainly hurt the Predators. So I think this year, more than any in the past, David Poyle, should be put under kind of a critical evaluation. Again, there's a tremendous body of work for David Poyle, but it's a results-driven business. So, I think the owners, will certainly take a look at both sides of that.
So what do you say just to the layman hockey fan, not that person who's down there every time the doors are open and reading every blog, but to the person who says, okay, help me understand this. Your goalie is a Vezina finalist. Your defenseman scored the most of any points in 30 years. You had the top scoring rookie. You had 2 guys who scored more than 40 goals on a team that never had a guy who scored more than 34. There were all these individual scoring records. How is that team not ultimately better?
It is a little bit of a head scratcher. I think there are probably a few factors you can point to. One, to me, starts with penalties that the Predators could never overcome. They were the most penalized team in the NHL. They spent too much time on the penalty kill. They gave up too many power play goals. That was a real thorn in their side through this entire season. Maybe more so than we think. I also think they couldn't necessarily establish, more than one scoring line on a consistent basis. We all know what Duchesne and Forsberg did, But beyond that, the lines beyond that, there were guys that from time to time would get hot, and certainly you look at a guy like Jeannot, and we know Johansson and Granlund were good too, but consistency beyond, a first line in terms of scoring, I thought was an issue. And to me on defense too, you look at the defensive core. We know Roman Josi is elite. Matthias Ekholm is a very good defenseman. But beyond that, Alexander Carrier, I think, is getting better. Dante Fabro, to me, has kind of leveled off at best. And that defensive core, I just didn't think was particularly strong on both sides of the ice all the time. And I think, over the last several weeks of the season, you started to see that defense spring leaks more and more. When you look at the number of goals that were scored against the Predators, the amount of time that they spent in their own zone. So I think maybe that flies under the radar just a little bit. We're used to seeing the Predators in years past, go 3, 4, 5, 6 very good defensemen. I don't think they're at that point right now.
John Glennon, our guest, covers the Preds for NHL.com.
Well, a lot of people, John, I know he didn't play in this series. He was injured. Saros the Juice, finalist for the Vezina. They said he needed more rest and they played him too much. What are your thoughts on that, just in general?
I think they did probably play him too much. I think it was when he was hurt. What did he played 67 games. And only been out of 10 or so at that point, if I'm recalling correctly. That's a tremendous amount. Now, can you directly correlate the injury to the amount of games played? I don't know. They haven't really talked extensively about the injury. It could be just a fluke turn of the ankle that could have happened at any point. But I think one of the problems certainly was that their backup goaltender of choice this season, David Riddick, wasn't good enough. That they needed to make a better selection as the number 2 goalie going into this season, because David Riddick didn't inspire the confidence that he could regularly step in for UC Saros and give him a rest from time to time. So I think that was that was certainly an issue, and I think in years to come, when maybe Connor Ingram moves up to the NHL level, and certainly when their top prospect in the organization, Askarov, the other goaltender, you won't have to worry about that problem as much for UC Saros. But yeah, I think they played him too much this year, and I do think that affected him in general, his game, down the stretch. You can't say that was the reason for the injury, but his game was not as good certainly towards the end of the season as it was, maybe the first 2/3 to 3/4.
No doubt about it. We're on with John Glennon, Preds writer for NHL.com. I guess I want to go down this road of, if Forsberg is not back, it's not the end of the world. Do you sign another scorer or do you go defenseman? What do you think the piece is missing if they let him walk?
Yeah, I think you certainly have to look for another goal scorer to fill that void, and there's going to be some options probably out there in free agency as well. And a lot of people have talked about Johnny Gaudreau from the Calgary Flames. Certainly had an incredible year, over 100 points this year. As the potential kind of replacement. The Predators will have money. Yeah. They do have enough money, whether it's to sign Forsberg or whether it's to sign somebody else. But certainly, when you lose a guy who has had the season that Philip Forsberg did, career year, 42 goals, 42 assists, 84 points, you've got to fill that void. And I don't think you can point to anybody on that roster right now or any of the prospects in the immediate future that are going to fill that void. So certainly you're going to have to find someone in free agency, and you may end up having to pay more, because once you hit free agency, all kinds of teams are looking for that player.
JG, great stuff, man. We'll be talking to you again about Titans, I'm sure, and any Pred stuff as this warrants any change. At Glennon Sports on Twitter, people can follow you there for all your latest stuff. Thank you, sir.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
Yes, sir. John Glennon, he and Ralph Sampson, the biggest Virginia graduates that there are. So the question, if you're the Preds, where do you start making changes to fix this offseason? We'll update on you that, read you some of the responses. If you want to respond to this, if you were there last night, maybe you're one of the people that were going and you stopped going. Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline is open 615-737-1045. Should this be it for John Hines? Should this be it for David Poyle? We've been talking about this. Curious to get your responses. Hit us on Twitter at Blaine and Mickey, the Zone TV chat, or like I said, give us a call on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. Blaine Mickey 104.5 The Zone. So, interesting day for the Nashville Predators, swept out of the playoffs. They did get their first lead of the series briefly in the game last night. Had a brief lead in the game. Philip Forsberg with a goal. Could be the last goal that he ever scores here in Nashville on the ice. A lot of people kind of in their feelings about it. Some of the local guys who cover the Preds saying it's time to tear this thing down. It's time for some accountability from the ownership, maybe that we haven't seen in past years.
And it could be bad for a year. It could be. Things that come up must come down, and things that are down must go up. So it's maybe you got to deal with that. Now that's where why they management and everybody else wants to hang on to it because you make money with fans alive and hope coming to the games, so they don't want to go down.
Well, asked this question on Blaine and Mickey last night. Where should the Preds start making changes first to fix things this offseason? Front office, head coach, players, and inevitably somebody says all of the above. So I just made that an option. Maybe you start to do a little bit with all of it.
I actually like all of the above on that one.
All of the above is the runaway leader.
Oh, is it?
48.6%. Changes with the head coach, 20.8%. Front office, 19.1%. Players only 11.6%. Charlie Burris says 1 and 2 at the same time and then 3. He's saying change the front office, change the coach.
Right, because if you change front office, the new person coming in is going to hire their guy.
Change the coach.
So eventually that puts Hines out there. That's just the way it goes. Sorry.
This is a pretty thought-out answer from Thomas on Twitter. He said, I feel like we need actual second-line wingers and real third-line players so the herd line can be our fourth line. That will create scoring depth. Our herd line was almost our second line.
True.
And Lucas, I see you shaking your head. I know you're very much involved with watching the Preds and what they do.
Nodding. I'm nodding my head.
It did. Yes, nodding. Yes, nodding. It did seem like, your first line scoring like they've never scored. Your fourth line had the top scoring rookie. It did seem like there was more issue of not what was the bread, but what was the filling in the sandwich there.
Yeah, all the in-between. And a lot of tinkering from John Hines in this series, too.
You rotating and starting out.
Yeah. He went crazy last night.
Went nuts.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, just everybody pick a number.
But why not? It's the last draw.
I agree. I had no problem with it.
I didn't either.
And they fought like heck just with whoever he put out there.
Yeah, they fought. But Granlund, Tomasino, obviously Duchesne, ton of guys just rotating on that top line. They just need to find some defined spots there for scoring depth outside of Duchesne and Forsberg. It's a tough pill to swallow, and you have two guys that do something that has never been done in this franchise's history.
Yep.
Two guys do it in the same season, and this is the ultimate result.
And how well did they do in the playoffs, this 4-game sweep?
Duchesne was great. Forsberg was not.
Because they're going to say, both of them can't beat us. We're going to shut down one of them each game.
Yeah, Forsberg didn't have a point until last night.
Yeah.
Duchesne was consistently a threat. I think he had 3 goals on the series. Yakov Trenin out of nowhere. He has now more 2-goal games in the playoffs in his career than the regular season. You'll take it where you can get it. But yeah, Forsberg disappearing was a big problem when you look at the Avs and their stars just completely lighting it up across the board.
And does that become part of the whole thing about Ryan Tannehill is, you're great in the regular season, but where are you in the playoffs? Does that become part of the narrative for Forsberg now that he's trying to get $9-10 million a year? Like,
personally, I don't think so because he has almost 30 playoff goals in his career.
Just this year.
Against one of the best teams in the league.
Lately?
He kind of disappeared though. Oh, I like Lorenzo writes here on the chat. Hire Trotz back, sign Forsberg, and bring up the Russian goalie prospect. You know who that is? The Russian goalie prospect.
Yeah, his name always escapes me. It's a guy down with Milwaukee right now that people are excited about.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
Yeah. Glennon actually mentioned him.
Well, Glennon and then fans know, so why didn't they do this? See, that's the question should be asked.
Askarov. It's Askarov.
Yeah, that guy.
It's time to kick some Askarov. Boy, there's the marketing stuck in.
Yeah, right.
I'm right here, Preds, if you need anything.
Just for that, right?
I'll be available,
There's one thing this franchise does well. It is develop goaltenders.
Yeah. This is
Trevor says, get rid of Poyle. He's had his run. His time is over. He put us in this hole. He hasn't been able to get us out in the last 3 years with the people he's brought in and put in place. That old timer needs to, I'm just going to say leave. He used used another choice phrase. Incredible Duck says, front office, how dumb. The front office has put together teams that have gotten us to the playoffs year after year. How dumb.
Oh man,
This-
Eddie Gray, man, he got a crazy one right here. Bring back Subban and Seth Jones.
What? Hey, I
I saw
enjoyed.
Subban. What Subban on the?
He was on
broadcast?
He was on
TV.
TV last night.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the
he's
microphone needs to replace the hockey stick maybe sooner than later.
Yeah.
It just seems like what the
He's
Preds
really
got
good
out
on-
of him was
Yeah,
they got the last gasp out of him.
yeah,
they
they
really did.
yeah.
But hey, man,
Injury prone after that.
hey, and he had a nice run. He could be on TV forever. He's great on TV. So he's just start that. There was one more. Eldon said, I don't feel like you can start with all the above. That feels like a massive recipe for chaos that ends with New York Jets level of incompetence.
Well, it depends on who you hire. Because some people will
there's
come
no
in and say,
nuance on
well,
Twitter.
we're going to have to get rid of some pieces, but we can bring in some pieces developed with these guys.
Yep.
So you always kind of want a mix of young and older veteran guys to have that good mix, and especially with the way their goalies have always played. So that is, it's a juggling act. So yeah, different lines too as well.
Hour number 2 of the
Better
show
lines.
coming up. Again, you want a
Heavy
lot.
defense.
Lots of action on this topic on Twitter and in the Zone TV chat. So appreciate everybody who's weighed in. Phone lines also try to keep those open for you guys as well anytime you want to check in. But we'll take a break. Coach Mack is going to be on with us in about 25 minutes, so you don't want to miss Coach Mack. We'll continue the Preds talk as well as Blaine Mickey moves on this Tuesday.
It is 2:01. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Stanley Cup playoffs will continue without the Nashville Predators, the first team eliminated after getting swept for the first time in franchise history by the Colorado Avalanche. The Preds fell last night in Game 4, 5-3 in Bridgestone Arena. UC Saros named a Vezina Trophy finalist. He missed the entire playoff series with a lower body injury. Preds defenseman Roman Josi also a Norris Trophy finalist for the postseason awards. Coming up tonight in the NHL playoffs, 4 games happening, all 4 series tied up at 2-2 in the Western Conference. Blues and Wild play at 8:30 in Minnesota, and it's Kings and Oilers facing off at 9 p.m. In the East, Bruins and Hurricanes drop the puck at 6. The Lightning and Maple Leafs head-to-head at 6:30. A big shift in NFL media was reported this morning as Tom Brady will join Fox Sports as a lead NFL analyst when his playing career ends with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brady will partner up with play-by-play broadcaster Kevin Burkhardt in the booth for a reported 10-year, $375 million deal, the largest deal in sports broadcasting history. Tonight in the NBA, 2 Game 5s taking place with a pair of series even at 2 games apiece. Sixers and Heat tipping off at 6:30 from Miami. And in the West, it's the Mavericks and the Suns from Phoenix at 9 p.m. The Atlanta Braves back in action tonight, hosting the Boston Red Sox. First pitch at 6:20. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Yeah, if you were worried about this, for anybody who was worried that Tom Brady might not be able to get by, so not only is he going to quarterback till he just literally gets sick of it, he is going to Fox for 10 years, $375 million, as Lucas Panzica said in his updates, $37.5 million per year. He will be their number 1 game analyst. He will also be a company ambassador per the New York Post. That's what they report. Romo and Aikman. It actually mentioned in this article because you were like, well, that's about twice. This says they both make 18 per year. Romo and Aikman each make 18. Brady's going to get 37.5. Will you ever?
Well, he's making more than he played too.
He never made that in his career.
No, neither did Troy or even Romo.
Would you guys ever be like, man, it's 2 games on. It's a doubleheader. Titans don't play till Thursday night. Man, I'm going to watch this with Tom Brady. I got to hear him. No. Is anybody ever going to watch a game because of the announcer? Do you ever remember picking the game like, oh, who's doing the game? Titans don't play till tonight. Ooh, they got these 2 games. Oh.
Howard Cosell.
That was a different time. That's when you're a boy.
Yeah.
To be alive, kids.
Oh, my. I took him back. Oh, Lucas.
There was a 3-game. There was a Monday night game. That was all the NFL games you got every week. And Howard Cosell was on the Monday night crew, Greg's uncle. So, yeah. Thursday night.
So you act like you listened to him. You would listen. You were tuning. You would watch. Listen to for him.
Howard Cosell did the most magical thing every week called halftime highlights, and this was before ESPN. So the only way, like the Bears were never on TV. Let's say you were a Walter Payton fan. The only way
Which
you
I
could ever
was.
see Walter Payton score a touchdown was on halftime highlights, and it was. Gosh, this sounds like we're talking about a different. It was a different century.
Yeah, because I don't remember this. I'm all ears, right? You got me all tuned in, man.
You can Google it.
driving, I might have to pull off on the side of the road.
You can Google this. Howard Cosell, Monday Night Football halftime highlights. So they would go, like they would take it was Don Meredith and Howard Cosell and Frank Gifford, the classic Monday night crew. Mm-hmm. They would, the Colts lead the Bengals 21-17 at the half. Coming up next, halftime highlights. My parents would let me stay up so I could see halftime highlights. I think we're good now. A lot of people in the Zone TV chat. All right, Lucas is giving. There was a finger up there. I think it was a thumbs up from the control room. Yeah, it was my parents and a lot of people who are around my age, your parents would let you stay up until halftime of Monday Night Football so you could watch Howard Cosell. Lucas, if you could find a clip of this, Even playing
Howard Cosell.
even playing the audio would be fun if you can find. I know you love it when we put you on the spot, Lucas. Right now, if you could make this happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw him dash past. Boy, he was moving. He dashed past the window there. So yeah.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, since he's dashing to Brazil and gets to go to nice Brazil and visit his family and everything next week, so he can dash.
I'll probably drive over to Antioch and go to the Olive Garden.
I'm gonna just tell him put me in the suitcase and just put me on the luggage. I'm good.
Surely we could get Zoom to work from over there and do a couple shows in between, trips to the beach and
time difference isn't too bad.
Watch the dilapidated
like 8 hours?
Olympic
2
venues.
hours. 2 hours.
Oh, it's only 2 hours?
It's right below us.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. It'd be nice scenery.
The dilapidated Olympic venues left over from the past. Is that not right?
That is not what I'm thinking about right now. I'm not thinking about
Do
that.
it from Christ the Redeemer. Do a show from there.
Oh, 100% do
man,
one
I'm
there.
Just, we can go all the way up to the top of the mountain.
All right.
See the Brazil guy.
So they would come back, and Howard Cosell would be on the mic, and they would do a look around the other games because it's Monday night. So all the other games have been played.
Look around. So this is before ESPN, huh?
Oh, gosh, yes. This is from the 70s. A magical time, kids, known as the 70s.
Oh.
And Howard Cosell, again, Greg, the install with Buck Rising. It's Greg's uncle, Howard Cosell. He was a great boxing guy. He was just really big on ABC. Anything they did that was big ticket, Howard Cosell was involved. But he would do 2 plays from every one of the games, and it would sound a little something like this. Lucas has it ready.
National Football League quarterbacks. Example 1, Fran Tarkenton, sacked by Gary Burley, suffered a broken fibula in the right leg, out indefinitely. Lynn Dickey of the Green Bay Packers, broken leg, out for the season. And Bill Munson, Chargers, broken leg, out for the season. And then at Three Rivers Stadium, second quarter action, Brian Sipe back to pass for the Browns, hit by Old Arrowhead, Ernie Holmes, number 63. And Sipe suffered a broken bone in the left shoulder. He'll be out
a lot
for
of
6
carnage
weeks.
with this one.
Terry Bradshaw was no exception on this day of quarterback catastrophes. Watch! Gerald Irons from the blind side. And Terry already sporting a cast over a broken wrist in the old familiar
broken wrist.
writhing in agony
he's still got to
on
play.
the playing field. Severely bruised left shoulder. He'll be back next week. Now in the first quarter, trailing 3-0. Bradshaw was red hot, throwing deep to the graceful Lynn Swann touchdown. The Steelers took a 7-3
What year is
lead.
this? Okay,
Lynn had
that's
5
it.
catches.
This is 77.
77. Wow.
Honestly, I wish you would have asked me. That's the year I would have
Yeah.
guessed.
Oh, man. We should have
I
done
could have gotten one right again.
That was entrancing. I'm not going to lie.
And there'd be grainy, low def video, of course, to go with it, the highlights that were shot, and he would have access to NFL Films footage, I'm sure, because this was the marquee telecast for the NFL each week was the Sunday night game. The whole world watched it. But he would get so excited, it would be like, and that man right there. And it would be Mel Gray of the Cardinals just running down the sidelines, big play Mel Gray, or whomever, these 70s heroes of, mine. But it was fantastic. And here was the thing. There were no other highlights anywhere that you could watch but him.
Wow.
So to a lot of people, Zach says Greg sounds just like him. He does sound like him. Prometheus says that's it. A lot of people weighing in on this.
We're talking about Tom
Lonzo
Brady.
says so many broken bones.
Right, a lot of broken bones. But, the question now is after, following up and listening to that, which is historic in nature, just all of that is, who is your favorite broadcast, or do you even listen to the broadcast? Is it just more about the game, not really necessarily who's calling the game?
That's a great question.
Some people do, because everybody's critiquing their broadcast. I mean, I don't really do that. Like, oh, he did good. I don't like it.
But people do.
They do. I'm not one of those guys really. But, that means that they listen to certain guys that they really like. That's not going to deter them from watching the game. But, who's your favorite broadcast crew in the NFL that you like listening to?
Can I say this? Jim Nance to me is great doing everything.
I like Tony Romo until this past season.
I was going to say,
what happened?
I don't know.
People were tuning in to watch Romo.
He
was must-see TV.
And then all of a sudden, this past season, I don't know what happened. Somebody tweaked him and said, don't do something. And then, man, he was saying the wrong stuff on air. And, oh, my gosh. I'm like, whoa, hey, Tony, what are you doing?
Something changed with him this year. And Derek says Mike Keith. Mike Keith's a lot of people's favorite. Not necessarily radio guys. We're talking about these national TV guys.
Yeah.
National TV guys. There was a golden age, I think, at one point, because you had Marv Albert and Dick Enberg, and you had all these John Madden and Pat Summerall.
Boom, bang.
You had such a great run. Even the classic Monday Night Football crew from the 70s.
He was the first one to start doing the stuff on the
Telestrator.
Telestrator. Yeah.
Remember, he
John
would
Madden.
circle sweaty butts and things. Sweaty butt pants.
Oh, my
John
gosh.
Madden.
Because he was a coach, he was a guy in the trenches, so he loved all of that, man. He had me all in there. Then the Thanksgiving stuff was pretty incredible, too.
Madden taught you football without you realizing you were learning stuff.
Yeah.
And he would say, between all the booms and bangs, he was explaining to you, well, the guard pulled and the guard took this guy out. And he was telling you all this stuff, but it was so entertaining. Gosh, if teachers could do that, and I love you teachers, but he was teaching you football, but it was so entertaining you didn't realize you were actually learning things.
He kept you engaged.
He kept you engaged.
He was exciting in the ways his presentation.
He loved it, man.
Yeah,
you could just feel it. He loved it. Mm-hmm. And Romo loves it, you can tell, but there were a couple times during Cowboys games it almost felt like he got uncomfortable. Like, come on, guys, come on. It's like, hey, Tony, hey, man, you neutral, remember? Well, if they score here, I think they got that. Right. Then they'll punt.
He went back to player mode. He was the quarterback of the Cowboys.
There was one game late in the season they were playing. He's like, if they score here, they could punt. They could get 3 stops, call their last 2 timeouts. They're going to get because he's great with this because he can do it. He's like, they're going to get the ball back with 38 seconds left, whatever it was. And son of a gun. Like, he was right about it, but you could tell it was just aching in his bones. He wanted them to do well. But, yeah, the shine seems to be off of him a little bit for some people. Not for everybody. Let's squeeze in a couple of these phone calls right quick. Mahogany on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. You a Romo guy?
Yeah, I'm a Romo guy, and I can tell you why he was bad this year.
Why is that?
Enough people people were complaining to Fox because Romo was so accurate with calling.
Yes, he was,
happen.
and that's why I liked him. I like that.
Enough people complained saying it ruined the viewing experience for them, and so they told him to dial it down, and that's why he wasn't as good as this year.
Man. Oh, that makes sense because
thank you.
He would you knew he was studying film, being a former player, and he knew exactly what they were going to go to and calling out plays, and I loved him for that. But like the normal Joe guy who's watching or lady, they probably don't like that because he was right. I mean, almost every single time. I'm like, man, this guy's studying film.
And to me, that's the thing that set him apart. He was willing to watch enough film to then say, hey, this is what they do here, and they're going to throw to this guy.
Yeah.
He's going to run a slug. And he'd be right. See, that never bothered me.
Yeah, some people, guys said they made complaints. I knew something tweaked him.
Because people, come on.
What happened? He was different. So then he couldn't be natural. He had to now, be outside of who he really is because that's what he does. That's what quarterbacks do. So maybe Troy learned that early on and plays. I don't want to be predicting all the plays. I've been studying their plays because that's why all the coaches always talk about execution. Yeah. They're not running. Remember I say they only put in like a handful of new plays at each down and distance for first down, second and third down. If not, then your guys are unfamiliar with the plays you're running. So when you go watch tape, you go, oh, they're going to run this.
Right.
You have, as a defender, I used to say, oh, well, as soon as they line up, they only got 3 plays they're going to run out of this.
Right.
Every time.
Right.
But a lot of guys can extrapolate that information quickly like that.
But I think people will be surprised at how simple some things are like that, even in the NFL.
Right.
No, this is their third down package. This is what they do in this yardage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We just got to stop it.
Just got to stop. Yeah, that's the hard part.
Right.
It's no stopping Coach Mack. He'll join us next to talk Titans and more on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. You hear that music, it only means one thing. It means that Coach Mack is here. The Mack Attack, our weekly visit with Coach Mack. Coach, how in the world are you?
Blaine and Mickey, I'm doing great, guys. I'm doing great. Great to be on with you. I'm just leaving Metro Center. I just caught the back end of that. Did I hear some Howard Cosell highlights?
Yes,
yeah.
you did,
You know, the
Coach.
mixter.
Well, I was trying to tell people the magic that was Monday Night Football halftime highlights and the absolute great legend Howard Cosell. So I told Lucas, gosh, if you could find a little bit of it, I know people won't have the video, but they can still get a taste of it. There was nothing in the world like that.
Well, it was the only thing like that then.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it was the only thing like that. And kudos to Lucas for finding that out. But absolutely, I mean, that was the golden age. I mean, that was, when Monday night, when announcers really became prominent. Gifford, Dandy Don, and Howard Cosell were the thing. The thing that's amazing about that the stories that I've heard and found out about that, Howard Cosell did all of that without any prep. He just did. They just threw that on, and he just started doing Howard Cosell. He had no script, nothing, no prep. They only had about 4 minutes, I think, if I can remember right. And he was just, all of that was extemporaneous, off the cuff. It was classic stuff.
And, people love who they love doing games. It's talk today, Tom Brady is going to get $37.5 million a year from Fox when he retires from football. But that particular booth, you had Howard Cosell, who was, maybe not even arguably, the biggest announcer, certainly in America at that time. You had the former quarterback of the Cowboys, and you had Frank Gifford, who had played in New York for his entire career. So you had a star football player from New York, the Cowboys quarterback, and the biggest announcer at least in our part of the world, Howard Cosell. That was an unbeatable combination.
Well, no, they were all superstars in their own right. And, of course, ABC, had them all locked up. And then, Monday Night Football was the thing because basically if you were lucky, you had two games on Sunday that you could look at. And then you had Monday Night Football, and everybody was dialed in.
Man, that was a magical time for sure. Always a magical time. And Coach Mack joins us. How much did you enjoy the draft process? Ended, you signed all the undrafted guys, and then you got to actually bring them out and put them on the grass and look at them. What was that process like for you as a coach?
Well, coaches like to coach, and you have to have players to be able to coach, and that's what you do. And players like to play. I mean, getting ready for the draft is something that has evolved that they've had to do. But really, players, want to play football, and they want to, have a team, and they want to come to a place and be part of an organization, and then try to get better and try to have a career. So this is the start of it, just the baby start of it. You have to go through the rest of it that we all went through, covered in great detail. All off season from the off season all the way through until now, and this is just the next step in it. But as a coach, this is the part that you really loved because now you have your players and you can start bringing everybody together.
So I wanted to ask you this. Guys come in now, a quarterback, let's say, who ran a more limited offense. Like people say, okay, that's the deal with Hugh Freeze's offense with Malik Willis. Or you've got receivers coach who weren't asked maybe to go super deep into a route tree. As a coach, what is that challenge like to take guys who haven't been in a quote-unquote pro-style system and try to merge what they do well with what you need them to do?
Well, that's your job as a coach. That's why you get paid pretty good money to do it. I mean, if you make it to the National Football League as a coach, you should be at the top of your profession, just like players that make it are at the top of their profession. And so that's what you do. That's why everybody now has started to bring in just rookies by themselves to start out with, find out what your base is with each person, and then start working them, together. Because really, no matter where they come from, it's all going to be new to them in some form or another. So you've got to start, with the basics, because it's not only the football that's brand new to them; it's a brand new way of life. All of a sudden, they've got all kinds of free time. They're responsible for everything now. I mean, they've got to, find their own place to live. They've got to manage their own money. They've got to make a lot of decisions that were made for them, basically, at the institutions where they were. And so now, I mean, it's a whole different lifestyle change for them. So you start them out, on the basics, and you find out where everybody's line is. Some guys will come in a little bit more ready than others, but at the same time, they're all going to have to assimilate into what you have. So that's why you plan out all of these sessions, to the minute detail in the off season. And then once you choose your people, then you understand after you've been with them a while what their learning curve is, how best they learn. Players learn differently. Some learn visually, some learn manually on the field, some learn with a combination of both. And so you find all those things out. That's what this time is for.
Coach Mack, our time right now is for hearing him talk about all things Titans and NFL. Better rates, better coverage, better service. That's why Tennesseans have been relying on Farm Bureau health plans for their health coverage for over 75 years. They make Coach Mack happen each week with us.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Coach. I guess since we're talking about the young players there and their development, and it's a process, and the coaches have to be patient through that process, because that's why you say now a lot of them are doing it just with the rookies. Take yourself back to when NWI was a rookie, because he's now one of the oldest. Him and Robert Woods, I'm assuming, are the oldest in the wide receiver room. Kind of take and tell us what he looked like then, when he first got into camp till today. Because, man, he's made a huge progress, and now, in some cases is the number 2 receiver and is jack of all trades, knows all the positions, as well as he can be a solid number 3.
Blaine, it's a good point that you make, and you saw guys like this all through your playing career.
Mm-hmm.
As they came in, and as a player, in the locker room and on the field with them, you would start to see when early on, this guy's got a chance if he will only take these certain steps at this time and be able to hang around here a little bit longer. That's basically what happened with Nick Westbrook-Akina. He came in, he got chances. He showed enough that he kept getting chances to come back, and then when he got extended chances, he was productive in practice. And then what he did is he started showing up in games. And as you know, as a teammate in the locker room, that's what you're looking for. And most of the times, the players themselves, Blaine, and you can speak to this, they know before anybody else does which guys have a chance to stick and who doesn't. Just because of the way they conduct themselves in the meetings, in the locker rooms, and on the practice field, they know, the locker room knows quicker than anybody else. And so when you have someone like this that has had multiple chances, that all of a sudden got the chance, and all of a sudden, the chain slipped in the sprocket for him, and he started to be able to spin the pedals a little bit, well, now he's got a chance. Now, it doesn't guarantee him anything. He's got to do it all again, starting again now, this off season, and then going into the season. But this is the type of development that you like to see. And the National Football League is made up of many more of these kind of guys than it is of the superstar guys.
Mm-hmm.
These are the guys that make up the belly of teams all across the country. And so when you've got a coaching staff and you've got a system that can develop players, that's what you're trying to do to be able to stay consistently. I mean, the Titans proved that this year, that they can develop players, because they used 91 guys this year to get 12 wins. And that was amazing. But that all goes to the base of what they do. And when you watch their practices, they coach everybody as if they're going to play. And that doesn't happen everywhere.
Well, sticking with that same line, we're on with Coach Mack giving us the Mack Attack from Titans Radio. And that is, what second, or maybe let's just even say third, if, off the top of your head, Titan is going to have maybe a breakout season. A breakout season could just be play consistent. You start to notice some more. It doesn't have to mean you have all these stats and everything else. I'm talking about a second or third year guy, maybe who you think, potentially this guy could be maybe a guy who steps up and plays better than expected than he's played in the past, because now he gets it.
Well, I think Christian Fulton's the guy for me. He started showing glimpses of that. If he can stay healthy, and that's a huge air quotes, with the if, that's always above everybody's head in the National Football League, health. But staying healthy, you could see incremental improvement this year when he played for stretches at a time. If he can stay healthy consistently here on through, I think this guy's got a chance to step up and be a really significant corner.
No doubt about it. I completely agree with that, Coach. We're on with Coach Mack giving us the Mack Attack. I guess one more thing. We saw the schedule come out, and the Titans are going to play their second game versus the Bills on Monday night. Kind of take us through a little bit. Yeah, here we go. I got excited because I remember when I first got drafted, they talked about the year where the Bills came back in the playoffs and came back and beat the Oilers at the time. So we ended up playing them early in the season, and they kind of got a little bit of payback. But kind of take us through a little bit of the history between the Buffalo Bills and the Oilers/Titans history bank. As you know, the history of the NFL, let alone the Titans, really well.
Well, that whole Buffalo thing was, that's a historical game for Buffalo. And, I tell you what, if you bring that game up around Mike Munchak or Mark Robb, they just about want to fight you. Because they don't, and you know that. You came in the year afterwards. Having lived that, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare for those guys. And so I think, clearly it started there. And they've had, such extreme games. That was an extreme game to Buffalo's advantage. And then the Music City Miracle was just an extreme game to the Titans' advantage. And so when you have those types of huge games that are really defining moments in the playoffs against a team that's not in your division, then I think it starts getting to be, it's in the same conference, but it's not in your division. Then you start to get a little bit of sandpaper going between the organizations. And younger players that come in, they're reminded of it, whether they want to be or not. And so, there it is again. Last year, look at the win the Titans had against them here. With the goal line stand on the fourth down and the quarterback sneak, where Big Jeff blows up the side of the line and the quarterback gets stopped. It's a huge win. It was a huge win for conference standings, for the Titans. And so to me, when you have those types of franchises, but for that to happen, Blaine, both franchises have to have had good teams where they were playing really meaningful games, for that to happen. This will be another one. This is a Monday night. The league did this on purpose, for Monday night up there. Thank God it's Monday night in September in Buffalo.
Yes.
Because, as you know, December in Buffalo can be a little different. You and I have both been up there involved in games in December in Buffalo. That's a different world. But that'll be a marquee game week 2.
No doubt about it. We're on with Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio.
Coach, I know we talked about a whole lot of drafted guys and guys that we thought might get drafted and all those things. Some of these Titans undrafted guys, there's a defensive tackle, Haskell Garrett from Ohio State. Some people seem excited about him. There's a really fast receiver from SMU, Reggie Robertson Jr. Just curious, I know you scout a lot of people. Did you get into any of those guys while you were scouting?
No, I know about Garrett because I did Ohio State. I watched. I didn't write up Robertson. I'm looking forward to seeing him in person. But you guys know me. If I have done a guy and vetted him, I will get in and tell you all of the minute details on him.
Sure.
But if I don't, I'm not going to get on here and BS you. Tell you something about some players. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys and see what they are. What I will do is once I start seeing them in person up here, I will go back and pull some of their tape and just look at it to see, kind of what the baseline is that I'm looking at. But they're coming in here this weekend, so I'm looking forward to getting the first glance of them. But to be able to give you a rundown on those guys, some people may try to get on here and tell you stuff that they say, I'll tell them anything because they'll believe it. I won't do that.
Well, I was interested in Robertson just because I knew Rhett Lashley and some guys who'd been on the staff down at SMU. Just the main thing that stood out to me was his speed, obviously. So I'm like, y'all be interested to see just what they all look like.
Right.
Who was the number one undrafted guy that you ever championed, brought in, and made you look like a genius?
Probably the number one undrafted guy. I've got Ronaldo Hill that ended up playing 11 years in the league. And guys, look, guys that come in undrafted, and there should never be, and I don't know why there is. I've been in the business for a long, long time, and I know that there's no stigma to that. Here, look, even if you are undrafted, you get a chance to get into the building. Then it's up to you.
Yeah.
And when coaches get up there and tell you everyone in this room has a chance, by and large, they're telling the truth. Clearly, number one picks, have an advantage because you've got money invested in them. But I'll tell you what, it's better now for these guys for this reason. once these salaries start getting slotted, it's not like the huge thing it used to be, when Sam Bradford got the last $90 million guaranteed deal when he came in and hadn't hit a lick yet in the National Football League, as to where you just can't, if they can't perform, let them go. Now with these slotted salaries, especially as they de-escalate going through the rounds that they were taking in, an undrafted guy, if he comes in and can prove himself, he's got as good a chance as any.
Well, and some of these guys are getting a decent guaranteed bit of money, to start their career. I mean, several of them have bidding wars over them.
Well, there are bidding wars, and I tell you, the league plugged that hole. I was involved in that Wild West show when there was no cap on what you could spend on undrafted players. In other words, you could do whatever you wanted to do, and so that got pretty wild. That was like the old Southwest Conference recruiting days.
Oh my
Lord. that got pretty wild. Now everybody's given the same amount to bring their rookies in. Now you can distribute that however you want to, and what you can do, you can put as much guaranteed money into the front end to entice them that you want to do, depending on what your cap situation is. But still, it is a little bit of a rodeo trying to get those guys in there. Once that 6th round is over with, believe me, it starts pretty hot and heavy.
So you're talking about the rookie cap, I guess, that every team has, right?
Well, no, it's
just for undrafted.
It's for undrafted.
Okay,
yeah.
gosh,
undrafted.
Yeah, what is that? What is the undrafted rookie pool, or is it it's a set number?
It's a set number. Yes, it is.
Coach Matt giving us the Mac Attack and some new knowledge here on Blaine and Mickey.
Yeah, always spitting the knowledge. I guess I only have one more question, and that is in regard to not necessarily what Tannehill said, but are your veteran players really supposed to be mentors? I said I thought I should have been, and I was, but some guys look at it differently. I don't know if it's by position or what, but from a coach's perspective, what do you expect out of your veteran players?
I expect veteran players to do their job and to keep their job, to do their job as best as they can, and then here's it was always my point to the rookies. I've talked to how many, 25 or 30, however many years I'd talked to the rookie class just by myself, probably 30. That what I would say is this: look, figure out a guy, in your position that you see that's doing it the right way. I can kind of point you there, but you've got to prove to them that you're willing to put the work in so that they can help you.
Yeah. All
right. Now, nobody's going to just say, "Hey, look, here's everything I've learned in 7 or 8 years. You don't have to do anything." Because look, anybody that is trying to make the team, they're responsible for everybody else's money, right, Blaine? I mean, everybody in that locker room is responsible for everybody else's money. So whoever you see that is working, you're going to help those people, because the better off they are, the better off you're going to be, and the better off you're going to be as a group. But to just say that, as soon as a new player comes in, that it's a veteran's responsibility from the jump, just to ignore what they're doing, to give them everything, that's not the way it works, and you know that.
No doubt about it. There you have it from Coach Mack, giving us the Mac Attack on mentoring in the National Football League. Well said, Coach.
Yes, sir, Coach. Look forward to talking to you next week after you've had a chance to check out these rookies at minicamp.
Guys, it's always a pleasure talking with you guys. Enjoy talking ball with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The best in the business. That's Coach Dave McGinnis. When we come back, Denver Broncos are for sale. What might they be worth? Wow. I'll just leave it at that. That's next. Wow.
Elon Musk.
Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. Hey, what are premier soccer teams worth? Like the big. What are those worth?
Billions. I'll look. That's a good question. Chelsea is currently for sale, so I'm going to find out what that price tag is.
Well, that's
all
one
right.
of the bigger ones, right?
Yeah. I mean, even a dummy like me knows that's a big deal.
Yeah, no doubt. So you're comparing it to the Denver Broncos, who are for sale.
Denver Broncos. This is from Front Office Sports.
Oh, you want me to make a guess?
Oh, no, I want both of you to guess. What do you think the Denver Broncos are? But I was going to give you a little background here. Front Office Sports, which is a real good business, like at FOS on Twitter. You can follow them for good sports business stuff. The sale of the Denver Broncos is not expected to generate at least blank, and he's attributing this to Pro Football Talk because they've obviously been following the Peyton Manning angle. A lot of people are expecting him to be in the mix. Magic Johnson, I guess, mentioned is possibly in the mix. Imagine just having so many. At some point, Tom Brady's going to have to start getting mentioned for some of this stuff because he's just printing money, and now he's going to print another $37.5 million from Fox when he's done playing football.
Well, yeah, him and his wife.
Who always reportedly made more than he did. Supermodel.
Reportedly, but she did.
Supermodeling paid more than the quarterbacking.
I'll see her on plenty of billboards when I'm in Brazil in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Is she the most famous current living Brazilian citizen, you think? Person?
I would say right there next to Neymar.
Okay. Where's Pele from?
Pele is from, I believe he's from Santos, which is the city he played in his entire career in Brazil.
Well, he's still alive. I'm going to go with Pele. Yeah. Or Pele.
Yeah, I guess Pele would be the most famous alive right now.
Okay, Pele is my man. All I know about soccer, all I learned about military, I learned by watching MASH, and everything I know about soccer is from Pele.
I love that you called him Pele, too, which is
that's right,
the proper pronunciation.
I know. Yep. I'm just saying the Americanized.
No. I love that you mentioned it, though. By the way, Chelsea worth just over $3 billion, but a club like Real Madrid, arguably the most accomplished club in world history, just south of $5 billion. Net worth.
Oh, boy, this is setting up even better than what I thought. So what do you think the Denver – it's not the Dallas Cowboys. What do you think the Denver Broncos are worth?
Multiple Super Bowls. I'm going to say less than 4. Between 3 and 4 is my guess.
Well, you said 5. I think they're going to be more than 5. So I'm going to go maybe. I'm going to go just a hair over 5. I'm going to go 6 or 7.
$5 billion.
Oh.
So $5 billion per Pro Football Talk. This is via Front Office Sports. $5 billion. And like you said, multiple Super Bowls, but haven't been great in a long time. This is, if somebody said, all right, start naming premier teams of American football that you think would be the most valuable, it might take you you might call out a couple more names before you got to the Broncos. And the Broncos are worth $5 billion. Because every year, is it Forbes that does the list of what teams are worth the most? And it's always the Cowboys that are said to be worth. I mean, if the Broncos are worth 5, are the Cowboys worth 7?
Yeah,
Gotta be.
They're more
8, 7.5.
I think they're more than that. He's going to look it up.
Oh, he dashed over the computer.
I think
for
it's
that.
double digits. I think it's 10. It's double digits. I mean, it's the Cowboys. We're talking about the stadium, Jerry Jones. I'd be interested to know that one. I would think, and you'll be surprised. Even the New York teams probably are worth a lot more than you expected, even though they're not having success on the football field as much right now, just because of where they're located. So where are the Dallas Cowboys?
Well,
the latest Forbes ranking has them at $6.5 billion.
Okay, this is one of those things like the wide receiver market. If the Broncos go for 5, then everybody's getting paid more money.
Right. I mean, if they're 5 and then the Cowboys are 6, that's
6.5.
That doesn't sound right.
6.5. That was
the Broncos going for 5 is the Jaguars paying $18 million for what's his nuts?
Christian Kirk.
Yes, Captain Kirk. That's exactly what that is. The Broncos going for 5 is Christian Kirk getting overpaid by the Jags.
Jerry Jones would be like, if they're worth 5, we're worth 10.
Oh, 100%. and I ain't selling for 10. You can, pry the deed from this from my cold, dead fingers. But, we're worth 10 if they're worth 5. Do you know what he paid for the Cowboys? He was laughed at.
I want $25 million?
No, it was more than that.
Oh, 80?
$1 billion.
No, he paid $140 million.
That's right. It wasn't even close. Yeah.
In 1989 from Bum Bright, it was the largest deal at the time in history for an NFL team. And people thought he was nuts.
Yep.
They weren't good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, they were going. You talk about rebuilding. Got rid of Tom Landry. I mean, drafted a rookie quarterback. Actually, they drafted two. Remember, they had Troy Aikman and Steve Walsh.
Oh, I remember.
They drafted two quarterbacks. They did
U.
what the Redskins did a few years ago. Eddie says, F Chelsea in this on TV chat.
Oh, my.
People have strong opinions about everything in there. I mean, you're just mentioning the value of a soccer club. He's like, well, screw those guys.
Didn't Tom Brady own some part of that? No.
No, he's Manchester United is his affiliation with the Glazer family,
Gotcha.
who own the Bucks, and they also own United.
Oh. When you say affiliation, what does that mean?
I don't know.
I appreciate the vagity there. I don't know.
Oh, man. He was at a game, that's all. Yeah, because of the Glazer family. Correct.
All right, on the way out, let's tell you about this. You can join the Zone for the 81st running of the Iroquois Steeplechase presented by Bank of America Saturday, May 14th at Percy Warner Park. Make tailgating a breeze. Get your tickets to the all-new Champions Corner. It's a 21-plus space, though, so you got to be at least Blaine's age to go. You get sight line on the outside rail, food and drinks. Thanks to Jefferson's Beverages, thanks to Pepsi and Lippman Brothers throughout the day. You don't have to bring anything. We bring it all for you. No coolers, tents, or food. We got you covered. You want more information, visit 1045thezone.com/events today. You want more sports information, you got to stay tuned for 3HL because that's coming up next.
And this lovely, beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Go clean my gutters.
But in the meantime,
In between time.
peace.